Hi, I'm Elizabeth if you're new here, and today I am reviewing episode 5 of Testament the series. Let's just jump right in. The episode covers the rest of Acts 5, verse 12 to Acts 6, verse 6. And even though there's a lot happening collectively to the group, we get more insight to their dynamics and hear from more of the seemingly background disciples. Part of the fun of this series is seeing how the story is crafted with such love for the word. As you watch, you're reminded of other scriptures and stories that might have inspired how they did certain scenes. Maybe not. Maybe just a coincidence, but fun either way. For example, in the scene when they are locked away, it's very interesting how they played it out with the angel. She shocked all of us with her appearing because she just said something, and then the camera cut to this young, normal looking person out of nowhere. No angelic glow, no dramatic action. I don't know if it was intentional, but it reminded me of Hebrews, where the author says that we should be kind to strangers because in so doing, some have entertained angels unaware. That's how she just showed up in this unassuming package, just guiding them out of bondage like a tour guide. It was really interesting to watch. And of course, I could definitely be reading too much into it, but for me, it just reminded me of that. Like, oh, scripture says this, so it reminds me of this. Maybe that inspired how they did this. So things like that really intrigue me. And you don't just see this in Testament. Really, any adaptation has a fan base of the original that find it nice to see something in the adaptation that shows how invested the creatives were in the original work. We saw a version of this, though not a direct, not the original, in Spider-Man No Way Home, when Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man saves MJ. Lovers of his version of the Spider-Man movies would remember that he didn't get to save his own love interest and she died. So this must have felt so redemptive for him and them. What I'm trying to say is that when you have a deeper understanding of the world you're playing in and can add or execute things in a way that complements the original or other versions, it's like winking at the segment of the audience that is as, or sometimes more, invested than you. This episode, we also see the disciples get flogged, and I really appreciate how they don't hold back on sharing what actually happened, but they keep it modest. The guys weren't even bare chested, and they cut the scene right as the flogging began. And of course, this treatment was also used with the deaths of Ananias and Sapphira. The sensitivity in the artistry in reimagining these scenes passed the message across without being unnecessarily gory for this particular medium. I said this in my review of House of David, which is coming out soon, about how different mediums affect us in various ways, and sometimes you want to tell a story, but you have to decide how to depict certain parts for your specific audience without distracting or overwhelming them. Moving along, Saul gets even more involved in trying to make sure the Jesus followers are shut down. Even though his teacher assures him that everything will be taken care of, he wants to take things into his own hands. At this point, Saul is obsessive over this issue, and after Gamaliel gives his speech from Acts 5:35 to 39, Saul's anger and frustration are inflamed against him. Gamaliel ends up dropping him as his disciple, and in doing so, he withdraws his nomination for Saul to become part of the Sanhedrin. So I got it wrong in the last episode, guys. Either Saul was presuming, or he just meant he and Mara, or he and the Sanhedrin would handle the believers, which they kind of ish kind of did. Either way, he was still only a nominee at the end of episode 4. Now, for those of you who have watched the old movie, One Night with the King, does Saul remind you of Haman? I keep looking at him and I keep thinking, Haman, One Night with the King. I don't know, the offset in his mind about a particular group of people, so much so that he's almost desperate to remove them and use his manipulation to get what he wants. His whole stance, his outfit, his clothing, his just demeanor. I don't know, it's very Haman-like. And guys, tell me why, by the end of the episode, I was almost in tears over Stephen being given more leadership responsibilities. I knew it was coming. I know. But it was just a beautiful scene to close the episode. No matter how small the role is that you are given, just being in service to God is the highest honor. So I don't know, something about the sunset or whatever it was just made that scene so beautiful. I literally almost cried. It was just so pretty. I loved it. Guys, I still want to know about Shem from episode 3, or was it 2? I just want to know about Shem. I'm so interested in that whole story, even though a lot can be assumed from Dana's revelation in this episode about how she got wrapped up with them. And if Dana is owned by them, as proven by that brand, what about Mary? Was she just tossed out? Was that what Shem was talking about? Like, I just need to know that information. I need to know what's going on. I'm still holding to my prediction that Steven's death is going to close this season. There are so many ways they can draw out the next several verses before they get to the season finale. So let's see what happens. I could be wrong, but doesn't that make sense? Let me know in the comment section, guys. I'm also interested in seeing what happens next for Gamaliel. Does he keep searching, or do Saul's insults harden his heart away from the way? Maybe we'll see. Tell me what prediction you agree with for episode 6 below. Thanks so much for watching my review. I have been loving this series from the start, and I am dreading the end because what will I watch every Monday after it's over? But it's okay, we still have a bit of time until then. So that's all for now, and I will see you in a new video. Bye!